And we are live. I always love when I see the go live and the official you are live sign. So, hello everyone, and welcome to Tipsy Tuesday. I'm Ayris. I am the host and I'm the founder and president of Able Vision Enterprises. I am excited. And when I say excited, I mean like really, really excited for today's conversation because it hits very personal, very close to home. But before I get into what today is all about, I always love to just open these Tipsy Tuesdays with one explicit explanation that this is not that kind of tipsy. So if you want to join today and have you a cocktail, a beverage, that is your choice. But Tipsy Tuesday is really where I get to sit down with amazing creators, change makers, entrepreneurs, founders, and get into their head so that we can have candid conversations and bring you tips, tools, and tactics to help us level up. And when I talk about leveling up, it's not just professionally, but to level up personally, to level up spiritually, and just to be a really strong, well rounded executive, which is all I'm trying to be in life. I don't know about you, but I think you are too because you come back every single month. So now let me get into what I am hoping you are going to walk away with today, and then who's going to help lead and guide this amazing conversation. Um, as I had my pre-call yesterday with our guest, Deandra, she actually had me reimagine what this conversation was going to entail. We're definitely going to talk about executive positioning. We're going to talk about executive presence and making sure that your reputation is, amplified and all the things. But it really also made me think about editing our lives, editing all the things that we have going on, and being able to create the version of ourselves today that is going to help support the versions of ourselves for tomorrow. I know I'm getting real deep with y'all, right? And so I have personally been able to work closely with our guest today. I've benefited greatly from the insight, expertise of our guest today. And I am thrilled to officially bring her on to Tipsy Tuesday. So please join me in welcoming Deandra Coleman.
Hello.
Hey, how's
Hello,
something
hello,
new today?
hello.
See, this is what you do. You bring out newness, you push innovation, you challenge me. You
I
challenge me.
that part.
That part. And you're going to challenge all of us who are joining today. Okay, so Deandra, let me
Yeah.
just share a little bit about what I know.
Huh?
Um, you are currently the founder of Édité.
Mhm.
Je parle en français un peu.
I don't know. Parlez-vous français?
You
Sure.
like it. So you're the founder of Édité, and you're going to tell us a bit more about that. And the creator of Life Branding. I love
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
You're a brand strategist, a communication strategist, and really, I think you are a champion of women, but a champion of excellence.
Yeah.
That's what I take from you, and that's what I've experienced in working with you and getting to know you. And I know you've spent your entire career at a lot of different intersections and verticals, and so we also want to hear about how all those different things come together. So again, I can't wait because this is so personal, and I'm going to share with you all what we've done together to help me become
Correct.
just a stronger, I think, more profound and confident leader. So thank you so much for coming on Tipsy Tuesday.
I'm
Yep, that's it.
excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I am always a support of you and whatever it is that you were doing, and to see the growth in your career and where you are now and all of the big things that you are doing. You are such a powerhouse. So I'm just honored to be in your presence, sis.
Likewise, sis. Likewise. Now I will say, I gave my version of who you are and what I know you
Hmm.
to be. And since this is the edit, I want to hear from you the edited version of Deandra. What did I leave out? And what are you building these days? What's top of mind?
I am in a space where I just want to allow people the birth to be who they are and to grow into that person fully, right? And to hold space for them, to love them through it, to support them through it. Everybody grows and develops at their own pace or with whatever is happening in their life. Roadblocks come. And I am no stranger to those roadblocks. And so I think when you're on the other side of a lot of those struggles and tragedies and guilt and shame and all of the things that happen through life, you hold space for people differently. And
Mm,
so now that I'm on this side of it, it's really about reaching out to teach, to help encourage, and to impart my experiences over not only my 20 plus year career, but the 45 years of life that I've had, right? And to help people and women specifically be able to be the greatest version of themselves that they truly want to be.
I love that.
Hmm.
Man, I was saying yesterday as we were talking, I'm like, why are we the same? Because I'm exactly, and maybe we just get there, and I don't think, for me, I was at, I didn't expect to end up there, but
Hmm. Yeah.
here I am. And I guess maybe in some form or fashion, that was always deep, within
Yeah.
to ultimately want to be someone. I was saying to my daughter, I said, some days, why am I doing what I'm doing? Today, I
Yeah.
said, some days I'm just questioning. And she said, to help the people.
It's the people. And truly that's what it's about at the end of the day. Yes, we want certain things out of life, but it's not, life isn't a monolith, right? Like you can't do it alone. And so when you help other people, you then are able to accomplish the things that you're trying to accomplish too. But to something you just said, I look at my life and I say, I am where I thought I would be. What I didn't anticipate is all the twists and turns and the stuff, right, that allowed me to get to this place. So
Yeah.
I think that I've always known that I want to be in a place of, well, I'm not fully there yet, y'all, but softness, right? In a place of peace. I feel like I've accomplished a lot more peace in my life, and that comes with just acceptance and knowing certain things, right? But I always knew that this is how I wanted to feel. And so you have to know kind of what you want to feel in order to figure out the roadmap as to how to get there. I just didn't anticipate, like I said, all of those roadblocks and stumbling blocks and all of those things that came with it.
I can't wait to get into the roadblocks and stumbling blocks because we could probably be here on this whole
I know.
live talking about those
Hmm.
stories. But a couple things. I love that you were touching on peace and softness because as I think about my career, as I think about what was ingrained in me, at least from what I saw or what I kind of heard with regards
Hmm.
to advancing in your career and advancing in life, we always talked about hustle, grind. No one talked about how you do that from a place of peace and softness. And that resonates so deeply with me because if there is one thing, that I'm kind of obsessed with right now is peace and softness does not have to be mutually exclusive from success and
Hmm.
advancement, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
if I can't get that success and advancement in alignment with peace and softness and just feeling good,
Yeah.
I don't want it.
I don't want
And
it.
I don't want it. And I'm kind of jumping ahead, but it's like, we were talking about just redefining success. And I think when you
Yeah.
define success on your own terms and not the terms of what society puts out, you can
Mm-hmm.
figure out ways to get that peace and softness
Yeah.
as part of your advancement.
Yeah. Um, I have a mixed bag of feelings about the word success, right? Because who's defining it? And I really truly feel like it is ours to define what success looks like. Now, I have years ago taken hustle and grind out of my vocabulary because I was like, stop speaking that over your life, Deandra. That is not the mentality that I want to have. Work hard, yes, right? Work smarter, yes. But hustle and grind, like that just sounds awful. Like
Yeah.
who wants to be living like that day in and day out? That sounds like your cortisol levels are spiking. That sounds like you have headaches every night because you're hustling. No, thank you. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so, success for me, I had to really truly sit down, and when I need to kind of edit and refine, I'm a big proponent of listing questions that are going to get me to that final reasoning. And I really had to sit down and think about what success actually looks like to me. But I keep going back to like the feeling of success, because oftentimes you'll feel things in your body before your mind will register it, right? So what does this feel like to me? And success for me felt like, yes, having a job that I absolutely love, or a career, I'll say, because I really don't want a job, right? Having a career that I absolutely love, having money that I can, have options, in life with. Having friends and family that I love, a small circle, but a tight circle.
Mm-hmm.
And peace at the end of the day, right? I wanted to be able to come home to a space that I absolutely love and feel relief, and letting that stress from the day kind of just leave my body, right? So success for me, it was a feeling before it was an actual manifestation, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
That makes total sense. That came up on a prior Tipsy Tuesday where Faida, and she was talking about, you know thinking about how you want to feel.
Hmm.
And it was interesting when we were having that conversation, because I was saying, when I journal, the thing that I ask myself, there's a couple questions I ask myself, but one of three that I ask myself every single day is, Ayris, what do you want to feel today?
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to feel today? And I force myself to think about that, because then when I'm at my prime, when I'm in my zone,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the things that I am actually giving my time, energy, and attention to. Will they allow me to feel what I said? And so I think for so many of us, and I didn't necessarily think about that from a success standpoint. So I love that tip, right? What does success feel like for you? Because for many of us, we think about what it looks like. It looks like the house that's in this community. It looks like the car that is this brand. It looks
Right.
like me, my husband, and my two kids. And right, we talk about what it looks like, but we
Yeah.
don't really think about how it feels, or
Mm-hmm.
even what goes behind getting what it is that you see. And I don't know if social media is messing us
That's
up.
right.
People are seeing stuff, but no one's talking about the work that has to go into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And if it's a certain level of work that has to go into it, I don't want any parts of it, right? Because it
If
takes
it's
me
not
out of
soft and
that feeling.
peaceful.
Right. It takes me out of that feeling. Like, case in point, I
Yeah.
have a love-hate relationship with social media, and I'm a marketer. I'm a marketer and a brander, right? And I can do it for other organizations and people, and I can advise and tell you all day long. When it comes to mine, I don't, I just, that does not feel successful to me, to have to record every little thing and then place the camera here and then it's over here and then you're looking that. I don't have the bandwidth for
Ooh,
that.
so much.
Right. So it doesn't feel good to me. And that is really what I judge things by. And does it feel good? And if not, then why are we doing this at this big age? Like, I don't want it.
Okay, so let me challenge and go deeper then with you there, because I feel that this is something we are all trying to grapple with. For, not all, many, because some people love it, right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
trying.
Mm-hmm.
camera around and y'all saw this setup,
Yeah.
I'm laughing at you because I'm like, you are talking about that.
Same as I have a camera recording this separately.
Crazy, right? So, as exhausting as that can be, and sometimes as vain as it seems that can be, or superficial, it is also becoming like critical. And that's what this is all. I mean, or is it not, right? Is it critical to be present via social media in order to keep elevating, advancing? But again, it comes back to what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So let's say some people are still in a traditional setting of looking for new clients or looking, for that next job. How important is that? And then, like, how do you balance that?
That's a good question. It's so I understand both sides of what I'm about to say. But I truly believe, and there's been some musings on this recently, that uh, successful people in the next couple of months and years will not be on social media,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they're too busy living their life and doing the things.
Yeah.
And there is this like dependency on this like interconnectedness that a lot of people are growing very fatigued with.
Yes.
And so if you are a product based business, I fully believe like social media is one of the fastest ways that you can grow your business. Even in a service based industry, it is still a great way for you to grow. But with all of the changes in the algorithms and this and that, it's not always the fastest way, right? And so you spend so much time into building whatever it is that has to go on social media for your content that you take time away from other activities, in
Yeah.
person, face to face activities, right, where people get to actually know you personally, not think they know you through a screen, right? And it could help differently. So I say, if social media is your thing, keep what's working,
Mm-hmm.
but try to diversify, because I truly believe that a shift is coming where people are not going to want to be as available on social media anymore. And I'm talking about the ones who have built, their career and profit off of social media. Success is going to be measured much differently in the very near future, outside of followers and reshares and all of that sort of content that we consume each and every day. It is going to be, where are you showing up? Back to old school traditional, what rooms are you invited into, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are these private conversations that you're having with people that don't require you to press record for social proof? It is
Yeah.
just going to be much more quiet. And I think for the girlies like us, right, who don't want to necessarily have that stressor of building content all the time, it's going to feel refreshing, and for introverts too, right? So it's a little bit more towards like personal and private rather than mainstream for the whole world to see with that external validation.
There's so much there to unpack. Okay, let me see where start. One, I love where you said it will be quiet. About a year or so ago, I was invited to speak at a conference, a wealth building conference that was
Mm,
focused on women. And one of the questions the panelist asked, or the moderator asked me, tied to the work that I do outside of Able Vision, where I'm with a lot of CEOs and C suite leaders in commercial real estate, specifically publicly listed companies. And they said, what does wealth look like? Or how does it? I said, it's quiet. That's what it looks
yes.
under the radar. You don't even
Yep.
know,
Yep.
right, who these CEOs are of these companies. You don't know who, you've never heard of even some of the companies that we represent or work with.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that you talked about the quiet, because I'm like, that's another thing I'm chasing. It's like, I just want
Yeah.
quiet.
Yep.
The quietness goes along with the peace and softness. And it's like, I
Agreed.
want a quiet life. But it's interesting, where I want to challenge is that in my work with you, you really pushed me to not be so quiet. You were
Yeah.
like my inner Sasha Fierce. Because you would see me put out something. Yes, I blessed it. Yes, I worked with you to put it out. But I was like, I would never show up like that. I would never do these things, you know. And so it wasn't quiet. And not being quiet helped me be positioned for many things that
Yeah.
came my way, from paid speaking, you know, clients, new role, things of that sort. So, you know, it's like, what's the balance?
That's fair. That is fair. So, what you're speaking to goes to one of my 5 pillars within life branding, which is voice, right?
Mm,
And it's a very strategic nuance. You have to know when to speak up and when to be loud about certain things, when to advocate for yourself, when to promote yourself. And then the discernment is really in when knowing when to be quiet and to listen and to not necessarily be out there. So it's a dance that has to
mhm,
happen. And it just so happens that the phase of the part of the dance that you were in at the time you were building was like be loud and proud about who you are and what you were saying. If we are
mm,
taking the time, to do the work that you and I were doing to build strategically this personal brand because you had goals, right? You wanted to do everything that you're doing now. Those were the goals that you really had
they
then when we
were.
were working together, speaking and in community with these top CEOs around the world. I mean, it's like, where in the world is Ayris today? Like, that's how I feel about you, right? Where are you? Because you're on these stages, you're speaking, you're ringing the bell, you're doing all of these amazing things. But had you not stepped out of your comfort zone then, that was the strategic positioning that we had to make sure we were doing in order for these goals years down the line to come to fruition.
Mm,
So it depends on where people are in their career, in their life, whatever we are building towards. I really sit back and I ascertain and say, okay, and I reverse engineer things, right? That is a skill set to make sure that I'm reverse engineering things so I can see the 30,000-foot goal, and I can very easily come down and say, well, this is where we are now and this is what we have to do. And part of my job with you, Ayris, was breaking you out of that, like, I don't think it was timidity. You were never a timid person, but it was more, I can't say this because these are the spaces I've been in
yeah,
previously.
yeah,
And so how do we make that shift now?
yeah. It was definitely I don't want to say a lot, but there was definitely, and even still, I hold back certain things because of different audiences and stakeholders that I have to connect
Yeah.
and engage with. But it was also, I think, a generational thing and kind of a cultural thing. Growing up in an
Mm-hmm.
era where we didn't have social media, we didn't do a lot of boasting and sharing. You know, you leave the house, like, when we leave this house, don't you talk about you keep your business at home, stays at
Right.
home. Children were to be seen, not heard.
Yes.
All of those things. We weren't taught to have voice. I love that you said
Yeah.
that, right? Because there is a difference, right,
Mm-hmm.
between having a voice and using your voice strategically and meaningfully versus just
Mm-hmm.
posting and sharing and thinking that that is what's going to get you your next. And
Correct.
it's even further challenging, and it drives me crazy because now with AI and social media, everyone is an expert,
Mm-hmm.
and so you feel often, and I get a lot of followers and engagers who are like, how do I stand out? Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone is doing the same thing, everyone is known for the same thing. What can I do to stand out, particularly with so many of us being impacted right now by unemployment and the job
Yeah.
market? And I want to get into twists and turns with you, but
Yeah.
how do you stand out?
So what is the Dr. Seuss quote? There's no one more you than you, right? Like, there is nobody more you than you. And so instead of guessing, which is what a lot of people do. Everybody has a brand. Whether or not you curate it is a very different story, right? So everybody has a brand. There are people who think things of you, and whether you're controlling the narrative or not depends on you, right? And so to stand out in this oversaturated AI market, you really have to know who you are at your core. And that's not saying, oh, like pink over blue. I'm not talking about that level of knowing who you are. It is really your values, the core things that you stand for, the hills that you will die on, and how you actually talk about them. It is also your space, meaning the energy around you. Do people like being around you? Do you seem like a
That's
genuine?
fair. That's
That's
that
big.
that is
Yeah.
big. That is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And even though people say, oh, it's social media, so nobody is around me, they can feel who you are through the screen, right? And so a lot of people think personal branding is this like contrived, vain sort of, idea. And I say, no, it's strategic. It is strategy at its highest form, because in an oversaturated market like what we are living in, when there are, 600,000 Black women who were it nixed from the workforce last year, and we're all vying for these positions because we've got to get in where we fit in and get it done, right? We still have to live. How do you stand out from the person who is just as well educated,
Yeah.
right? We are an educated group, right? So we MBA, JD, whatever it is that we have, we are like, so how do you stand out? What is it about you that make people say yes to you and no to somebody else? Those
Right.
are the questions that you have to start asking yourself. And if you don't know, it's okay to seek help in order to figure it out.
I love that. And seek help to figure it out. I think that is also something that is really critical to continue to emphasize is that
Mm-hmm.
one, it's okay to get help. I
Right.
have brought in many to help me along the way. And two, you will spend the money on a brunch, a bag, a trip, your hair, your
Right.
nails, all the things. But if you maybe took a season in your life where you took that same money
Yeah.
and invested it in skills to make you more competitive, to
Yeah.
make you stand out, to help you with maybe pivoting, right? The lane that you've been into, I'm just going to say, I don't think it's a wasted investment.
No. Yeah.
If you really are serious about, pushing yourself forward and standing out and kind of changing maybe some of the current dynamics of your
Yep.
career or your personal life. Like invest in yourself. That's the
Correct.
because if you can't invest in yourself, how do you expect anyone else to
Somebody
invest?
else too. That's right. Because that's some of the questions that you, even when, if there's, investors, and they say, well, what have you spent so far?
That's
Right?
right.
Like, what is your personal assets
Mm,
on the line or whatever it is? They ask you those questions. They want to know how much you've actually invested in yourself before
mm.
they take the risk and invest in you as well. So I agree, and I'm never a proponent to say, oh, you need to save money, don't buy that $5 coffee. Like, that's not who I am.
I
Buy the
am. I'll
coffee,
be like
get
$5 coffee. No.
right.
Just
I'm
the
like,
principle.
buy it. Like, if that's what is giving you some joy today, then buy it. Now, if it's a $500 bag versus investing in yourself, then I'd say let's weigh it, right? But those little things that make you feel good, for me, it's always my hair and my nails. No matter what's going on, that's what makes me feel polished and put together. But it's small in the bigger scheme of, like, again, how do you want to feel, right? But to your point, figure out what it is you can eliminate and do without for a period if you need to set aside some additional funds to invest in yourself.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to recap a couple tips and nuggets that have been dropped so far along this conversation. So, one is really challenging yourself to think about what success feels like,
Mm-hmm.
not just what it looks like. And I know you're probably listening like, it's so, no, this is real. Seriously. Like, it's okay. Close the
Yeah.
door, set a timer, 30 minutes. What, what will it feel like for me to say, okay,
Yep.
this is success? Because again, you may have the six figure, the extra degree, the house, whatever, and still feel as though one, you haven't achieved anything, or two, feel
Mm-hmm.
that you're so burnt out from the grind that it takes to have that. So really think about not just what it looks like, but what it feels like.
Yeah.
The other is also making sure that you are taking the time to know who you are. And I think in understanding what something feels like, you got to know who you are. And
Yeah.
really, the work can't go separate. And
Right.
I also love to say, beyond knowing who you are and what those values are, so I hate to do this, but it's like, what's your why? And I don't mean the cheesy why. It like,
Mm-mm.
I also tell people sometimes I would interview folks and I say, well, why do you want this job? And they go, oh, I love the mission. I'm committed to that. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to give you one more time to answer this question. We all love
Right.
the mission. That's why we're
Right.
here,
Right.
right? We all love the whatever. What is going to make you come into this job, or what is going to make you show up for your company or
Mm-hmm.
this relationship every single day?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you and I were working together and I was at that organization, I had three very clear whys for why I was there. I wanted to do paid corporate speaking.
Yep.
I wanted to get out of government.
Yep.
And I wanted to be able to expand my clientele with Able Vision.
Yep.
Every single day, I was hitting those, like, that was why I was, of course, I loved the work that we were doing, but
Right.
my why was deeper than that, right? So you
Yeah.
have to have a why.
So to that point, Eris, what I tell people is, it's this concept of the fifth why,
Mm,
right? And I don't know how many of you have heard it, but it is really this, like when you ask somebody why, they give the, oh, I love the mission. That's the surface level. That's the easy reach to get to. And when you keep asking why, 5 layers down is really where you get to the core of why you want something. And that is like the guttural. That is like, okay, so fine, you love the mission, but why? Because women and girls matter in this world. Okay, well, why? And eventually it gets down to, well, I saw my mom being a victim of domestic violence, right? And so therefore I really want to change the trajectory of X, Y, and Z. But you're not trying to tell people from jump your mama's business.
right.
You know what I mean? Or sometimes you don't even realize it yourself, that that's really like those deep rooted like childhood traumas that show up at different, you don't even know that that's what it is. But
That's
it
right.
isn't until you sit with yourself and really get to know who you are and ask yourself these questions that you can really come up with your
Mm.
real why.
Your real why. And, if I've got several whys, but when I really pull back the why, if I'm being very transparent with folks about why
Mm-hmm.
I do what I do, I have always had a fear of being poor. That is my biggest fear.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Like financial instability, the thought of that, and when
Yeah.
I think about how my life feels
Mm-hmm.
because of financial constraints or limitations, I don't
Yeah.
like it. So
Yeah.
therefore, it's like I have to do the things that have to be done, even when I don't feel like it. I'm doing it because that fear, which I'm gonna get some help for that.
At
I
least
am
you
gonna
know
get
you
some
need
help,
it.
y'all. Listen, I was like, I love it. My man is always like, when you talk about money, your voice changes. I was like, I can't not talk about it. But it, that when I'm exhausted or don't want to do it, it's just like, okay, but you know what? What you really can't do is have
Yeah.
to sit here and figure out how to make these maneuvers. Been there, done
Yeah.
that, never gonna do it again. Hopefully,
I get
God willing,
it. I get
right?
it. And I think my work stems from growing up in a community where I often was the only dot in the room, you
Mm,
know, and always feeling like I had to strive and do for more, and still feeling behind the eight ball
yeah.
because their life had set them up for something that I, you know, am probably just achieving at 40 years old. At 18, 19, you know, these kids were
Right.
already getting certain things. And my work has always been with people and women specifically who want to elevate and rise, right? So, but it really stemmed from how I grew up and the environments that I was in, and never feeling necessarily less than, but just different, right? Like
Yeah.
I had, again, had to work harder, had to be charismatic, and you know, I was terribly introverted and shy when I was younger, right? So learning how to actually use my voice, how to find my voice,
Yeah.
and command and shift rooms was a learned experience for me, right? And
Mm,
so that's where my why comes in, because I know that there are other people out there in this world who come from environments like that, and they have to learn it.
yeah. I mean, when I say all of my questions are going out the door, all my questions are going out
Right.
the door because every time you say something, I'm like, "Ooh, I want to go deeper on that," because
We need a part two.
you also, and I do have some things very specific. And if you all have questions, please ask your questions. Don't put all the work on me. Um, Feeling behind the eight ball.
Hmm.
Oh my God. Me and my friends and my peers, we talk about this all the time. And I feel like I'm having a session right now because I think this goes back to having a definition of success that is ours and that we actually have taken the time to come up with. Because
Right.
one would say, how are you behind the eight ball when you've
Yep.
got XYZ, you've accomplished XYZ, but you still feel like you are because you're comparing. I always say comparison is the thief of joy, right?
Hmm.
But you can't help it. You're seeing things, we're aging, and you know that there's still more that you want to accomplish, or you think that you should be retiring with, I mean, 5 million, but you're only at 10,000. All the, like, we always feel
Yeah.
like we're behind the eight ball when we probably really aren't behind. Like, who's eight ball? Like,
Who's eight
compare,
ball?
right?
Hmm.
And is that something that you see often with the women in this space and at this level that you work with, or even now young professionals?
Yeah. So, you know, not so much with the young professionals because they're just starting out. I think that social media again has had a detrimental effect on how we view ourselves, because it
Yeah,
is comparison city, right? You're on
yeah,
social media, you're seeing these contrived lifestyles, highlight reels of people, you know, but you don't really see what goes on behind the scenes, or, you know, that this corner that they're sitting in front of is tricked out for their content, but they have a
right.
mattress on the floor over
Say
here,
it again.
on cinder blocks or something, right? Like, you don't see that. But I think where it really is taking a toll is women who are 40 and over. I
Mm-hmm.
think that there is a reckoning that we are dealing with right now, where, you know, we saw what happened last year with us being pushed out of the workforce. We see how hard it is to find jobs now to replace the income that we were once making, right? Again, we are well educated. A lot of us have had, you know, children, have built families. Some of us are in the midst of divorce right now. And what does phase two of life really look like? And it is this moment where, like, for me, 40s has been like the best decade of my life thus far. Like, I love it because there's so much freedom, and like, I don't really give a, like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you know, like that's my, that if I don't do a Kanye shrug once a day, like there's something's wrong, right? Like, you know, I don't know. But I think that we are in this midst of like redefining what life really looks like for us. You know, we don't look like the Golden Girls who were in their 40s. You know what I mean? Like we look good, we feel good, we're moving and shaking and all of these things. So there is this sense of like life is shifting, but there's also this level that I should be at, should in air quotes, right? So whose eight ball are we behind? Are we behind our own eight ball and what we thought our life would be at this point? That's one thing.
Mm.
But if it's somebody else's eight ball, right? And what they are saying life should be, you should have this amount of money saved towards retirement by this point because people retire at age 62 or 60. That's not true anymore. You know what I mean? And I think that if we could, and everybody is not meant to be an entrepreneur. So what I'm about to say may or may not apply, right? But if we can figure out what that success really looks like and feels like for us, then we are building our own eight ball, and we are moving with that eight ball as we grow and as we shift. Because again, otherwise we're just going to be flailing and looking at other people's definition of success, what society tells you should be, you know, what your health numbers should be, you know, cholesterol numbers, like it changes every year. Your cholesterol should be under this and now it should be under that. It's like, how many things do we have to do? Like that's how I
I'm
feel a lot of.
technically obese per the health standard. Like literally, I'm obese. I was
It's
like, oh
wild.
my god,
Yeah, right? And it's crazy.
obese.
So to your point, like behind the eight ball is it's hard because yes, there are certain things we want to have at certain points in our life. That's just a natural inclination that we're human beings, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. But again, it comes back to this idea of knowing your total self and really figuring out what if you are behind based on your definitions or if you are behind because your mom keeps asking you when you're going to have kids or your grandma tells you that you're approaching 40 and you're not married yet, you know, when you shut up, right?
She is me.
Whatever. Right. You know,
I
so yeah.
love that so much. Like it's you said something and I'm paraphrasing, but it's one thing if you feel as though maybe you're behind, and again, air quotes, or off track or not making the progress based on what you've envisioned and determined.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's great. That's fair because that to me is part of that accountability is
Mm-hmm.
that gut check. Okay, well I
Mm-hmm.
said I wanted to achieve X, Y, and Z
Right.
by a certain time frame. Is that realistic? Do I still really want that? And am I going
Yep.
to step up and lean in to achieve and accomplish that versus
Mm-hmm.
someone else's definition? That
Mm-hmm.
is superb. I want to get a little personal now,
Okay.
right? As we have talked about kind of our philosophy and our views on this, I want to talk about what has shaped some of this evolution that we've gotten to. Alexis had put in the chat about, she said, these twists and turns ain't no joke. Twists and turns are for real.
They can
And
take you out.
they can take you out. And there's twists and turns that happen personally,
Mm-hmm.
that happen professionally,
Mm-hmm.
that happen, in your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, as big as I am about our decisions impact our lives, sometimes these things happen outside of our control.
Yeah.
So even though I want to get personal, I'm still going to keep it in the professional lane.
Yeah.
Um, we talked yesterday about our careers and being in roles where sometimes the expectations may not be realistic or fair. And we've got the title, we've got the big company, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, thank you.
I'm
We're,
out.
you I'm out, either voluntarily
Or not.
or
Right.
not. And so can you talk a bit about your career? And I love for, I value for women who are of our age and generation to hear these stories, to understand we all navigate them. But I also
Yeah.
really love for some of the younger ladies who tune in, because I want them to also be aware of some of the things that may blow up
Yeah.
that are beyond your control. And so, I was saying how many of us were taught that if we put our heads down, or if we just did the work and we accomplished all the things, that would make us be safe. And I know many of us understand now that is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Have there been some experiences that you've learned from?
100%. So, I've learned throughout my career, but I will speak to probably my last role more specifically because that is the role where I felt like I had arrived. Like I've held VP titles before, director, VP, right? I've steadily climbed that corporate ladder, so to speak. And this last
Because you're a
role was not,
corporate, like you come from a corporate background.
I come from a corporate back. Oh, yes. Did I do a thumbs up?
No,
Anyway.
somebody else.
I come from a corporate background, but smaller corporate, so not like Fortune 500 companies or anything like that. And, I have not only built the experience, but I have the education to back it up, right? And so this last role was where I felt like I finally had arrived and, things were great. I had a team that I adored, which very rarely happens. I mean, my team was like ride or die, like over a cliff for me and in the right direction. I truly adored each and every person on my team. Um, and, did amazing work for this organization. And, and not in a I'm untouchable kind of way, but in a I am in my prime. I am in my zone, right? I know what I know. And if you are hiring me to be in this position, then you are also recognizing that I am of caliber, right?
Right.
And that I know what I know. So when I impart my wisdom, what I don't expect is for you to try to gut check me because you are intimidated by who I am and what I'm bringing to the table, right? And to your point of like, we could be doing all the things, making the right moves. Um, I had brought in millions of dollars for this organization, and uh, one got was awarded two Marcom Gold Awards. That is an international marketing and communications award that thousands submit for, and in two categories, I won gold for. Right, that's not a small feat at all. Brand partnerships I had secured with celebrities and new and television stations and all of these things. And then a month after these awards were given to me, I was fired. Whoa. I'm sorry. For what? You know? And the reasons were bogus, and they're neither here nor there. But what I am saying is that we can do all the things, all of the
Yeah.
work, keep our head down, win awards, right? Be recognized for the level of work and the caliber of work that we are doing. And these companies, many of them are not loyal. Like they do not care. If you step on the wrong pinky toe, right, then you are out the door. And so my career, I say, has been, and this has been um, in many of my roles, not all of them, but in many, where because of how I've curated myself, because I have honed my voice, because I have taken the time to get to know who I am, what I stand for, because I have taken the time to fully educate myself. So I didn't stop at just an MBA, right? I have certifications, one from Wharton, one from Cornell. Like I keep learning and I keep my finger on the pulse. Um, I highlight other people's mediocrity, and they
Mm.
don't like that, right? And when you are highlighting somebody else's insufficiencies, whether or not you are meaning, you are just showing up as who you are, right? And you can't change who you are, and you shouldn't change who you are. Um, there have been several occasions, mainly from women, who do not like what I represent and who they are lacking in themselves. And then they take it out on me.
Mm.
And so for me, I say that my career has been abusive, right?
I was gonna get into
Mentally.
that. Yeah, when you said that yesterday, you said my career has been abusive, and when I
Yes,
say that, struck my whole soul.
it
I was,
has.
I've never been in an abusive relationship except with my
Ever,
career.
except for my career.
There.
Mentally,
Oh my God.
emotionally, financially, it's been having to fight for the dollars, having to fight and prove that I am owed this bonus. I brought you $16.5 million. What do you mean I got to fight for a bonus? Like all of these things, right? I believe that they have been abusive to me because it leaves me at the end of the day not necessarily questioning my worth, but like, I
Yeah.
thought this time was going to be different. I
Oh
put
my
my
God.
heart and soul into it this time,
Yeah.
right? And I thought, and shame on me, right? You fool me once. What is the quote?
You
Shame
fool
on
me
you. You
once,
fool me
shame on you.
twice.
Fool me
Can't
twice,
get
shame
fooled
on
again,
me.
right?
Won't fool me again.
Can't fool me again. But I've been duped, you know? And so it's about like what can I build now for myself where I can still work in the world that I've been accustomed to. I still work with corporations, you know, and helping them build their brand or executive presence for their, you know, C-suite or what have you. I still work with them, but it is a much different relationship, and I can extricate myself from it when I need to, rather than working as a W-2 employee.
Mm, that is, that's a whole word right there too. And something, here we go again. Something you shared or you said was around highlighting other people's mediocrity. Like I, what I have come to realize at this level, in this phase of my career, the certifications, the education, the technical and hard skills are extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really valuable is learning those skills that make others feel comfortable, safe, right? That and those are some skills that oftentimes we are not taught, we
Mm-hmm.
do not see, or that we are told are equally important. It goes back to kind of where we started at the top of this conversation around, do people like you? Right? How do you make
Right.
people feel when they're around you? And it doesn't mean that the way you are, I am, we are is wrong or not acceptable, but it may not work for every environment. And so
Mm-hmm.
again, this is why I think it's so important for us to understand, what does success look like? What does it
Yeah.
feel like? Where do you need to be? Because baby, I have raised some money for some organizations. I have saved some politicians from a lot of slander. And guess what? Thank you. Your services are no longer needed.
Correct.
I could be
Correct.
like, what? I remember the
Yeah.
first time I got fired from a position. It was a transition in political administrations, and my friend, he was like, "That's the first time you've been fired, and you think you're gonna be some like CEO or executive director?" He said,
Right.
"Okay, it won't be your last."
Right.
He's like, "Get over it, dust yourself off." And I was like,
That's
"What?"
right.
I just did. And then another, I raised them $30 million in 6 months. And that
Hmm.
board was over me quick, fast, in a hurry
That's
as soon as
right.
they got their money. Right? I
Well, it's
learned
often
a lot.
because we're the cleanup women. True.
Clean up women. I have
That's
truly been a cleanup woman. I'm not
yeah.
cleaning up nothing no more. I
Yeah.
don't want to clean
We're
up.
hired to be the cleanup women a lot of times
I
because
said
they
that.
know
Clean up,
what we can
turn
do.
around. That's right. That's right.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, abusive careers. That
Right
I
there.
understand that.
I'm
And
sorry you
learning
understand.
and learning the skill, again, to your point, you don't have to change who you are, but it's I was like, you know what? I don't. If you like it, I love it.
Yeah.
You want to do it, I'm here for it. If you want me to produce it at this level, but I'm used to producing it at this level, I'm gonna meet you where you are. That is fine,
Yeah.
and I think that those are some needed the soft skills they say.
It is. It's also that, but you know what? I am a proponent of code switching. I code switch all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and not in a negative way, right? It's about knowing your audience and knowing your room and knowing
Yeah.
who you are. So it's not changing who I am going into each environment, but it is understanding who you are speaking to
Yes.
and the language that they speak and being able to switch and adjust and adapt as you are in these different rooms, right? A certain level of intelligence is required when you are dealing with CEOs
Yes.
than when you're dealing with entry level career. And it's not that they're unintelligent, it's just that the language is very different. And people look at code switching as like this negative thing, like, oh, a cultural, you when you're around, certain demographics, you talk a different way or what. Yeah, I do.
I do.
I do. Thank you very much.
I love so Cedric goes. He says, it seems that sometimes going hard in the paint in terms of your competency can actually backfire on you.
Yes.
We've just touched on
Yep.
that, but
100%.
he was saying like, how do you? He said, perform at a lower level. Cedric, we're not lowering our standards. We're just shifting
But it's a valid
expectations,
question.
right?
When you know what you know, and you know that the receiving party might find it in a certain way, how do you then, I don't want to say dumb it down, but how do you perform at a lower level? And it's really, again, about knowing your audience. And sometimes it's just a tone shift, right? Or like Ayris, like you said, like if you like it, I love it. You know what I mean? And not fighting for
Treat
those
them like a
things.
client.
Yeah, not
Mhm.
fighting so hard and going so hard in the paint for certain things that you really want, because at the end of the day, it's going to be your expenditures, right? Like you're going to be expending all of this energy and they're not even going to appreciate it. So you just sit back. You like it, I love it. I'm used to here, I'll give you here. That's
Yeah.
cool because then I can go home and watch Love is Blind,
But
very easily without worrying about working tonight.
because you've already said that these companies and organizations aren't necessarily loyal. And I get it. That is hard when you really want to meet your standard of
Mhm.
excellence, but you are in an organization or a company, their standard of excellence is different. And so, to
Yeah.
that, right, you just
Yeah.
have to adapt, or you need to make a shift and a change because
Yeah.
otherwise, you're going to
It
always
is.
have some of
It's
that friction.
correct. And, I think that that's a hard lesson that I had to learn. Again, I'll go with this last role. I went in and it was, the team that I inherited, they kind of just were disheartened. There had been a lot of turnover, et cetera. But I told them from day one, I don't do mediocre. Like that was my opening line. I don't do mediocre.
You do
And
not.
some people,
I will endorse that.
I don't. Some people, rub them the wrong way because they had never been used to a leader who says that to them, right? But it's not about
Yeah.
perfection. It's about trying your best. And if you tried your best, then that is not mediocre, right? But what I was able to do there was my team elevated to my level of excellence and output. And when you don't have somebody who helps you get there, right, and makes you actually want to give your best,
Mm-hmm.
then that person needs to work on their leadership skills, right? Because nothing that they did I wasn't willing to do. And that's how we elevate together. What happened though was that my department elevated, but the rest
Yeah.
of the organization
That's right.
was still stuck in this kind of perpetual kind of mentality, let's say, not right, not wrong, just different, right? And those who were on my executive team, I think they felt some kind of way about it, and I can't speak for them per se because I don't really know. I was supported in some areas, and then in other areas I wasn't. But it is really truly about knowing what your level of output is and what level of excellence you want to operate at. And those who are around you either need to rise to the occasion or they don't, but you don't have to stay in environments where you feel like you are not to be and do everything that you can be and do.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's crazy because I try to keep this to an hour, and here we are at an hour.
I know.
I got so much more. Okay, so let me. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. Um. Oh, which one? Which one should I ask about? All right, okay, because we've been talking about. I love this, like mediocre, I can't even say the word. That's how much I don't deal with it. I can't even pronounce it, right? Being mediocre. How do you say it? I don't even know how to say it because all I can say is excellence. But as we think about if we're kind of bringing this all together,
Mhm,
where we've discussed having the credentials,
mhm.
right? Having the experience, um, working on our presence and our voice, being honest and true with ourselves around how we want our lives to feel, what success looks like, why we actually are doing the things that we're doing. And for those of us who are here today and we're trying to figure out, well, how do we bring all that together and how am I packaging and using all of that to move forward? When we think about pivots, and I talked about the reintroductions and the reimagining, where do we often find ourselves getting stuck? At least with the clients and the clientele that you've worked with, like where do
Mhm.
we get in our way? And then how do we get out of our way? Because I feel in the Tipsy Tuesday community, folks are constantly in that space of wanting, you know, it's the
Yeah.
aspirational, but I'm also like, we also need to focus on just being where we are and being okay with that. And maybe that's where we're supposed to be. But for those of us who still are trying to elevate, level up, switch,
Yeah.
pivot, where do you find that we are often in our own way? You worked with me. Where was I in my own way? And then
Mhm.
what is the kind of like closing out tip for us to get out of our way and to start applying towards
Yeah.
actions?
It's a really good question. I would say a vast majority of people that I work with, their thought process is, I want to, but I can't, right? I
Mm,
can't do this. I can't say that. Oftentimes, especially if you're working at large corporations, you are um, beholden to like a code of ethics, that the organization sets out and things that you can or cannot say and do, etc. Um, or they personally just have never been bold enough to share and be who they really want to be.
yeah.
And so where they get stuck is this, I can't, right? They're like, they know that they have a problem clearly because they're working with me, right? They know that there's a goal that they want to get to. But when I start poking that uncomfortable button
Yeah.
and pushing and saying, well, you said you want this. So now this is how we get there. There's this immediate, I can't. And so it is a mindset shift, a paradigm shift that they have to have in order to move from I can't to I will do it afraid,
Ooh,
right? I'll
say
do
that
it.
again.
I will do it afraid,
Mm,
right? So listen, and that goes to a lot of things in life. I will do it afraid. I, at my big age of 44, a few months ago, could not swim. And I told myself for my 45th birthday, I was going to learn how to swim. And I did it terrified, right? But I knew that this was a goal of mine. And I had to literally go through the water in order to get to the other side. And so that's what I will tell people. You have to figure out what that water is and swim through it, regardless of what the fear is, because what you want is waiting for you on the other side. So that's the biggest hang up and roadblock that I see when people are working with me.
Oh my God. I will. Okay. It's a lot that I'm taking away. I don't, this Tipsy Tuesday live has just been all for me and my little session, my couch time. But, oh my goodness. I will do it afraid. That really means a lot to me because I am a perfectionist.
Yep.
And
Same.
as my best friend told me the other, over analytical.
Yep. Yep.
Those are also good details, right, for a leader. But I am actually trying to learn to get out of my way, in that regard. And when I really peel it back,
Yeah.
it's the fear, right, of getting it wrong, or
Right.
the fear, even though I don't care, but I do care what people
Yep.
think, right? And just the fear that I may not have all the expertise around X, Y, and Z. And so just doing it afraid. I think that is.
Listen, there are people who are less qualified
Mm.
doing, and they're not even afraid. They're like, I know I'm mediocre. They're like, I know. I mean, I don't know nothing, but I'm gonna say it. Come on.
They're not afraid at all. So I love it, love it, love it. Any final closing thoughts before we wrap?
Oh, I just would say for anybody who is really looking to build their executive presence, to build their personal brand, it is a strategy, right? It is something that you really have to first know who you are, but then there are categories that make up the total person. And I would say do it before you need it. When you need it, it is too late. When you need that curated personal brand, it is too late because your brand speaks for you before you enter any room, right? And so it is the little touch points that we drop, the gems that we drop here and there throughout strategic moments that build to the big thing. So when you walk into your next job interview, they've Googled you and you've popped up in this article here, your Substack has shown up, your social media video has, right? And so they have this picture of you before you even walk into the room. And then when you walk in, it's about that personal presence, right? Do people like you? Is the space around you, your aura, something that people can actually be comfortable with? Or are you giving off like just bad energy and bad vibes? Do you look the part? Are you speaking like you belong in this room? Right? So it is the totality of these things that builds presence and builds poise and builds the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need it and you haven't done it, you're all that. I will say you're behind the eight ball. That's my eight ball. I'm telling you that you were behind on, right?
I absolutely
So
agree. That is fair.
yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
again, it's back to oftentimes we see the end goal, or the end outcome, or the moment outcome, but we don't think about the work behind it. It's like, you and I worked together for like a year. I mean, there's things happen, and hell, I kept
Hmm.
working with you. Who knows, right? But it doesn't just, oh, all of a sudden you're the senior vice president. Oh, all of a sudden you're the CEO. And I would also go back to kind of what you said earlier about some of the traditional ways of building and connecting the brand. Because again, I'm sharing with you the CEOs and the leaders that I'm working with or engaging with, they're not even on social, they barely
Yep.
even have a LinkedIn.
Yep.
So, but they still have a brand. They are
Hmm.
still known
Right.
within their industry. They are
Yep.
known by the appropriate parties and influencers. And so I also challenge people to not just think about your brand and reputation from this, social media immediate kind of things that we see and that we think is where it gets built.
Branding.
Think about, I tell people you need to have in your arsenal uh, marketers and brand strategists that you need to be building relationships with the chief human resource officers. You should have a lineup of executive recruiters in your Rolodex. Like, the majority
Yeah.
of the roles that I've held have been because a recruiter reached out to me, or a CEO or a leader of an organization reached out to me because they have
Hmm.
been following the work. And I wasn't a
Hmm.
business. through social media presence, but
Right.
through networks and things I was affiliated with. And so I also really challenge folks to think outside the box in terms of
Yeah.
organizations that you belong to. Join SHRM. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it's HR leaders, but be like an associate member or something and go and it's just different these days.
Yeah.
And so we could go on and
I
on.
know.
I just want to say thank you so much. I mean,
Absolutely.
I love this conversation. It reinforced for me how wonderful it was to work with you. And I'm like, I got to
Yeah.
get a coin so I can work with you again. And if someone did want to work with you or connect with you, how would they find you?
Yeah, so you can go to deandracoleman.com. That is for the corporate work that I do, executive presence. And then my life branding company is called Édité, like Ayris mentioned at the beginning of this. And that is at the Édité Life, the Édité.life. And that is more the life branding, the 360-degree personal development that I work on with folks.
Now, we may not all speak French. So, how do you spell Edite?
It's edit with an E at the end, Edite. It's the French word for edit. So
I love
Édité.
it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Editing our lives. So I hope everyone is leaving with a little bit more inspiration, but beyond inspiration, new perspectives, um, practical tips and nuggets that they can
Mm-hmm.
begin to apply. And even, if there's questions that are surfacing or still sit, you know how to find me. Deandra has now told you how you can find her. And we'd be happy to continue those conversations and help you think through
100%.
it. So, thank you all again. I love Tipsy Tuesdays. We will be back next month with a live. And I also love hearing from you all around the topics and subjects that are top of mind to you so that I can continue to bring amazing guests like Miss Deandra and others to help you on this journey, which is what it's all about, creating this community of thought leaders and exchanges and understanding that we're not in this alone. And so we are on the
Yeah.
path to be well rounded executives. We want to live well, we want to lead well, we want to build well. And I'll see you all next month. Thank you.